Just for this video, I decided to put up some new posters over there. We got Guardians 3 on my right, and we got the Flash. Because, I figured I'll put that one up since we're talking about it. And yeah, either way, I have finally seen one of my most anticipated movies of the year, The Flash. Let me just start off with saying that this is going to be a spoiler-free review, because at this point, the time that this review is coming out, it is not out to the public yet. There have been a lot of fan screenings, but it is not available to see publicly, like to go buy a ticket just yet. So, just bear that in mind. I have taken extensive notes on this just to make sure that I don't spoil anything. Also, as a side note, I am not going to be talking about everything that's been going on with Ezra Miller in real life. We've talked about that to death, just on the internet in general, and I'm going to use this to focus on the movie and the lead up to the movie. So, I'm just not going to talk about everything that happened with Ezra. Just full warning. That being said, outside of that, this was still one of the bumpiest roads ever for not only a DC movie, but for a comic book movie in general. This was first announced all the way back in, I think, 2014. I do know that Ezra Miller was cast as the movie Flash a week before the Grant Gustin CW series started. That recently wrapped up its entire run after its 10th season, and now we have the movie coming out. So that's about what you expect. This movie has gone through many iterations with different writers and directors. I'm pretty sure Lord and Miller were attached to write it at some point. But in the end product, we have Andy Muschietti, the director of the two It movies, which I think are pretty good, and also Christina Hodson writing the script for this. She had written the scripts for Bumblebee, the good live-action Transformers movie, along with Birds of Prey, which I think is very underrated in the DCEU. So, overall, I feel like this is shaping up to be pretty good. On top of adding this multiverse-esque, I'll say esque for this reason, and with bringing back Michael Keaton as Batman for the first time since Batman Returns. We have the first live-action movie version, well, oops, sorry, Helen Slater. The first live-action Supergirl in this modern era in a movie played by Sasha Calle. And we're also looking back at Man of Steel, the movie that started this era of DC storytelling with General Zod coming back, once again played by Michael Shannon. It's been a couple days since I've been to the preview screening, and I've had a lot of time to sit down and think about it. When I was coming out of it, I did really like it. But as I sat down and I started to think about this movie more and piece together what I was going to say and talk about in this to point out how fucking great this movie is, I was able to figure it out. The story itself is pretty much shown in the trailers. The overall story of kind of adapting the Flashpoint storyline, if you know what that is, I don't really have to explain it. But it's loosely adapting that. It's mainly taking the concept of it and putting a little bit of a spin on it. And earlier I said this is a multiverse-esque story, and I will actually change that and say I don't really think this is a multiverse story. It has multiversal elements in it, and then there are nods to earlier movies. There's no spoiler to that since Michael Keaton is in this movie. But most of it is merely little callbacks. This is not on the level of something like No Way Home, where you're gonna expect cameo left and right. There's no character in this that's gonna pop up like Tobey Maguire or Andrew Garfield and not have a massive role in the story. This is very much Barry Allen's story, and that is the one thing that I was really hoping that this would be. And Ezra Miller is pulling double time on this. There are two Barry Allens in this, one that is set now, and one that is There's a secondary. That's all I'm gonna say. And a lot of this movie rests on Ezra's back, and they nail it. It's insane how much they nail it, and honestly, it should be a star-making role. That's unfortunately, with everything that's been going on out here, that's not going to happen. But this would be a star-making role for anybody else, and Ezra's great in this. It's actually to the point where outside of Supergirl and Keaton's Batman, a lot of the other characters don't have a bunch of screen time. Even Ben Affleck, who has been marketed heavily in like the marketing and the trailers, a good amount of the stuff he's in is in the trailers, albeit it's great, but I'll get to that in a moment. Michael Keaton does not miss a beat. Up until Robert Pattinson's Batman movie, Keaton was my favorite Batman. I grew up on the two Batman movies he was in, mainly the first one, and it was really great to see him back, and it really didn't feel like he was bullshitting. It felt like he was there and wanted to be there, and plus, it's really awesome to see Keaton's Batman do all of these crazy stunts that just wasn't possible in the other two movies. I also do think Sasha Calle is pretty great as Supergirl. It's a very subtle performance. There's not a lot of overacting, at least in this. There's not a lot of overacting in general in this movie, but at least compared to Ezra Miller and Michael Keaton, Sasha Calle's performance is much more muted, and I really think it fits this version of Supergirl. And if things go the right way, I would love to see her reprise the role, and I think that would be amazing. And even though Ben Affleck is not in this movie that much, he's really only in the first 15-20 minutes of the movie, I will say that I'll use this to segue into the action as well, but Ben Affleck's Batman has some amazing action in this. And I think it rivals the warehouse fight in Batman versus Superman. Alright, now we're talking about the action here, because this was the part that I had to figure out why does this look great? And I figured it out earlier today, and it reminds me of the Justice League Unlimited cartoon, and along with the other series as well. Especially the opening action sequence, which is honestly one of my favorite DC action scenes in years. And it feels plucked right out of those cartoons from like the 2000s, and they just put it into live action. It is incredible. It was really something to behold. Even in the opening, when I was sitting there and watching this, I just sat there and just was taken aback. Oh my god, I can't believe they're fucking doing this. And that goes for both Batman as well. I think Michael Keaton gets some great stuff in this. It kind of feels more inspired by the Arkham games, and it's insane that Michael Keaton's Batman is getting the Arkham style action, and I think it's great. Out of the other reviews that I've seen for The Flash, and specifically this cut that I saw, because I should probably note, I don't know if I said this earlier, but I am talking about an unfinished cut of the movie. Most of the movie is intact, but the only difference is that we were not shown the post-credit scene because it got cut short, and also I believe the very last scene of the movie, maybe like a little bit was cut at the end of that. But other than that, the movie was pretty much in its final state other than polishing visual effects. And that's why I'm going to talk about the visual effects, because I don't know how far along this cut was, so this could be a massive improvement. And honestly, since it's so far down the line and they're showing it, I don't think it's going to get much better. But again, it felt really cartoony. There were a lot of things that looked obviously fake. And I can't say what because spoilers, but there are a couple of things that look great in this. But there are also a couple of things that look really cartoony. And that's mainly the action sequences. And because I pointed out that it feels like they plucked it right out of Justice League Unlimited, I feel I could give it a pass. Just like I sat there, I just went, okay, yeah, I'm rolling with this. There's one other thing that I would like to mention on this before like concluding, giving my score on this, and I would like to point out that this is the last DCEU movie. This is very much like an I wouldn't say it's not an endpoint for everything that came out from Man of Steel on. It feels like more of a celebration of this. And I feel like if you are a Snyder fan or not a Snyder fan, I feel like you can watch this and enjoy it. It not only celebrates what Zack Snyder brought to the screen, it celebrates everything that got brought to the screen, whether it's from movies or television. It is a celebration of DC as a whole, and it's pretty nice to see that. But all in all, it is a Flash story first. I was a little worried about that because, you know, with bringing in all these other different elements that are really happening and loud, what the hell just happened to the lighting? I do think that it is a miracle that this movie works so well, and I mainly think it's because of the director Andy Muschietti. I always mispronounce his name, but I'm gonna go with Muschietti for now. And just knowing what he's doing, it's kind of crazy that, at least for this iteration of the Flash, they finally nailed it. Not got it right a little bit. They nailed it with this, and they're done now. And we, again, granted, we don't know what's happening with Ezra right now, but I am pretty confident that this iteration of the Flash is done. And it sucks because they finally got it right, but then again, it's a miracle that this movie worked. There was so much working against this movie, whether it was inside the movie or outside of it. And it worked. I'll end it with this. The Flash is easily one of the best movies in the DCEU. I can't believe I'm saying that because I never thought I'd say that. But this is a funny, just overall great movie, great action, great a lot. There's a lot of great things that are in this. And a lot of it I cannot say because the movie's not out yet. So I'm probably going to do a spoiler talk so I can, talk about this. Because I do want to talk about this. But overall, I am feeling like a 9 out of 10 for The Flash. I really do think this is worth it to go see. I don't know how it's going to do money-wise. Out of what I've heard, box office projections are a little low. This movie does not deserve it. I hope this does well, and this is just not only a great celebration of DC and a great celebration of what we got from DC for the past 10 years, but it's also just a great movie. It completely stands on its own outside of the cinematic universe that is ending, but it stands on its own, and I think it really can stand the test of time. Alright, those are my thoughts on The Flash. The Flash is not out yet at the time of this recording. So, when it does come out, or if you've seen it at a fan screening, what do you think of The Flash? Where does it rank for you among the DCEU as a whole? And just, overall, what do you think? I don't know, I can't believe this movie is this good. Either way, I will put a card up within the last 20 seconds of this to show my entire DCEU rewatch playlist. So, like the video and subscribe if you haven't already. Comment below what you think about The Flash, and I will see you in the next video. See ya.